Even a company is losing top tier people because their sales process is not even efficient.
100%. Yeah, because you look at the sales.
Welcome to the Business Owner Spotlight.
More revenue solves
More the problems.
Almost more revenue.
Solve your problems.
Problems are solved. And so I build the machine. I help people build the machine for themselves. And they're like, well, can I use ClickFunnels? Yeah, you can. Let's make sure you understand how the machine works. ClickFunnels is an important part of it. You can use that. Well, what about automation? Yes, you can use automation as well. But first you need to understand what's happening in the machine.
So is that you're teaching people this, or you do it for them?
So I don't do it for them anymore. I used to do it for them, but I found that that I ended up caring more about their business than they did. So I focus on teaching them and holding them accountable. I do a lot of accountability stuff as well. So I help them through the process more like a personal trainer. Where I can't help you lose weight, but I can motivate you and tell you what you're doing, right? It's like personal trainer's job isn't to make you lose weight. You have to do that yourself.
So what type of clients are you typically working with?
Generally, I work with high ticket clients. So somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000 is generally the minimum. If you're selling something for $500 or $600, it's generally not. It doesn't really work for me. There's not the numbers are not big enough to get me excited. I have a client I just signed up last week, and her average ticket's about $9,000. And when she told me she wanted to do $500,000 before the end of the year, I'm like, no problem.
Gotcha.
At $9,000, that's easy, right?
Yeah.
But when you the lower ticket the item tends to be, the more commoditized it becomes, right? So now it's like there's 80 other people that are doing it.
Yeah.
But when you get into the higher ticket items, but I've done work with car dealers and real estate agents because they're high ticket items. And so there's really the ability with a high ticket item to differentiate yourself. You can't really differentiate yourself when you're a restaurant, right? If you're a fast food restaurant, it's like you're just like 80 other guys.
Yeah, it's like you're the same.
Now, but if you're Gordon Ramsay's restaurant, now that's a high ticket restaurant. Now you can differentiate yourself. And so I really focus on the process. And actually, there's the 3 Ps. There's process, prospects, and product. And the big takeaway for me that I give everybody is focusing on your product first is the mistake. No, I have a great product. I don't care. Tell me about your sales process. It's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, well, okay, so we know what your problem is. Because you have this machine that is designed to generate revenue.
Yeah.
And it generates revenue. It doesn't matter if your product is a hamburger, if your product is a house.
Gotcha.
The machine generates revenue.
Which is a sales process.
Which is the process, right? So then we focus on prospects. It's like, who do you want to put through that machine? They're like, well, let me tell you about my product. It's like, no, we're not the product yet. Let's focus on who you want to work with. Who is your ideal client? Who do you want to focus on?
Yeah.
What are the demographics and psychographics of those people? And then once we have the machine and we know who we want to put into it, the product really has nothing to do with the product. It has everything to do with the messaging. Most people, they think, well, my product has these features and benefits. I use the example of McDonald's. McDonald's is a great one. If I was to tell you 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, and a sesame seed bun, right? Okay, cool. That sounds appetizing. That's messaging. Because what it actually is 2 pieces of somewhat close to beef that it's not really close. It's not really beef anymore. On a piece of bread that is so over-preserved that it doesn't even mold if you leave it out. And it has cheese on it that isn't really cheese. It's really, there's the major component of their cheese is actually plastic, not cheese. But if you tell people that,
no one's gonna buy it.
No one will buy it.
Yeah.
So they know exactly who their prospects are, which is why their machine works so well. See, they have a clearly defined machine, clearly defined prospects, and so the messaging doesn't attract me because I don't eat at McDonald's.
Yeah.
But it sure attracts young parents.
Yeah.
Because they know that that's who they're trying to bring in to purchase their product.
So how important is the marketing aspect in the sales process?
So that's when you get to the messaging, right? So it's extremely important, and it trickles back through everything else, right? So the process I go through, use a 90-day program. The first 30 days is building all 3 of those, and the next 2 cycles is tightening it up. because you start with the process and make sure you understand how the process works. Then you have your prospects, then you have your product messaging. Messaging is really what the marketing all is, right? It's all about messaging. It's all about getting the word out there in the way that motivates the right people to do business with you.
Gotcha.
And so the marketing comes after you have your car rolling down the road. All right, let's put a jet engine in it. But it needs to be at least rolling down the road.
Yeah.
You need to get something moving. Too many people that they try to up level and adrenalize their business, but there's no foundation. There's no way to sustain it. So they like jump in too quick. It's too deep. It's too big. They can't sustain it, and then they end up failing.
Wow.
And so
So you help them from the messaging portion all the way to the closing portion.
Yep.
And are you even helping with the fulfillment portion?
So I give them the understanding that is a very big component. So delivery infrastructure and then data collection. So I just touch on it. I don't get involved in that. I look at it like my job is to get you to the closed deal. If you can't deliver on that, that's really not my problem. If you get, you got money from somebody, you got them to buy your product. If you can't deliver on it, I did my job.
Yeah.
Right. You have to make sure that number one, you're knowledgeable enough to deliver. You have the infrastructure. You have all the things that you need, and that's where I see your business is extremely valuable for people because you're giving them that infrastructure to deliver.
Yeah.
And so it makes it to where they can do that in an automated way, in a way that is not draining their time. And I tell every single one of my clients, you don't need ClickFunnels. You don't need all that stuff. What you need is a solid process, a good idea of who your prospects are, a solid message on what your product is, and a phone.
And phone. How did you get into this business?
So I started, generally speaking, I got into business because of my dad. He was an entrepreneur, and I just thought that was the way you live, right? You work a lot, but then you go on vacations a lot.
Yeah.
So growing up, I just thought that was normal life. Whereas other people, they saw, a corporate 9-to-5 job. I never saw that.
Yeah.
So my dad was an entrepreneur, and he taught me some great entrepreneurial lessons. I started my first business when I was 12.
Gotcha.
I was probably the richest 13-year-old you
Yeah.
ever met.
What was your business?
I'm really excited about it too. I love talking about it. It was called Care a Can.
Care a Can?
Care a Can, right? And what we did is we were the trash can caddies for our neighborhood.
Gotcha.
So it was funny because we lived in a high-end neighborhood and $1 million homes, and I would always laugh because I'd come home from school on Thursday. Trash day was Wednesday, or on Thursday morning, so I'd come home from school on Thursday, and trash cans were all over up and down the road. This was way before your time. This was when you actually owned your own trash cans and it didn't belong to the city. So that's why
I remember.
Okay. So where you had your own trash cans.
On the East Coast, that's how it was.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I think it's on the West Coast that because still on the East Coast is still.
Oh, really? They still have their own trash cans?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so out here, it's all the trash cans belong to the city.
Yeah.
Right?
I did notice that, yeah.
So what we had this really interesting situation where all these homeowners, high-end homes, high-end neighborhood, are wandering up and down the street looking for their trash cans.
Where would it go?
Well, because we lived on a hill, the wind would come and it was empty. And so trash cans would roll down the hill. It'd be at the neighbor's yard. It'd be down the street. And so a lot of our neighbors were losing their trash cans, couldn't find them, right? So knowing your prospects, I just started knocking on doors and said, we'll take your trash cans out and we'll bring them back for you at the end of the day. And so I had a stroke of genius, which is one of the reasons I made good money. I realized that we don't have to take the trash cans back in if we invest in some heavy-duty trash bags, and instead of taking trash cans out,
take the trash bags out.
Take trash bags out.
Yeah.
And that way, we just cut our work effort in half.
So you actually were the one that invested in heavy-duty trash bags?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I called a supplier back east and ordered the heavy construction trash bags. I got 1,000 of them, and because I was going to go and buy them down at Home Depot, and I'm like, that seems really expensive.
Yeah.
I wonder who makes those. And I looked on the little thing, and I called them, and I had them manufacture some trash bags for me, and they sent them in big, huge, unmarked boxes.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of fun because it meant I went around on Wednesday night and emptied all the trash cans. I had about 100 clients.
And you just, so they put the consumer put it in the trash can, and then they put it out. You put it into the bag, and then you put the can back.
No, see, this is the entrepreneurial mindset. When you're a kid, you think of great solutions. So what I did is the first couple of weeks I was taking trash cans out, and then I was searching for them. I marked on which address was for each one, and then I was bringing them back after school. And so afternoon is a lot of work to do that. So I said, wow, I hate searching the neighborhood for these trash cans. That's why they were paying me, because they didn't want to do it. So I hate searching the neighborhood for these trash cans. I said, ooh, if I just put the trash bag out, the trash guy comes by, he picks up the trash bag, and the trash cans are still behind the fence.
Yeah.
So I went one step further, and what I did is I layered the trash can with the trash bag.
Got it.
So all I had to do was close the trash bag and take it out.
Gotcha.
The homeowner was filling the trash can, and so and that's why I got those custom trash bags that fit over all the cans. I tied them up so they didn't fall in. Every once in a while there was a mess, but generally I was working for 4 or 5 hours in the evening Wednesday night, and I had about 100 clients giving me $20 a month.
Wow.
Give me $20 a month for that. So as a 12, 13-year-old kid making $2,000 a month.
You're making a few grand.
That's a pretty good. That's a lot of time at the video arcade.
Yeah. Oh man, that's
So that was a lot. That was the first business I had, and I've been in direct selling. I've been in multi-level marketing. I've been in real estate. I've been in financial services. All these different businesses that I jumped into because it looked fun. And then once I felt like I got everything I wanted out of it, I was like, move on to something else. And so my experience has been extremely broad in so many different industries. The common thread is revenue. So that's why I'm where I am now.
So you're essentially consulting. Now, how many clients do you have in this business?
So that's a good question. I'm not sure what the number is. Active clients, probably about 100. Yeah, maybe a little more than that.
So 100 clients, and they're all learning from you how to scale, how to pretty much process their entire sales.
Correct.
They're learning from you how to process, and not just even the marketing aspect. They're learning how to maintain the sales and how to create a machine essentially, from start to finish.
And my design is around cold contacts.
Okay, gotcha.
Cold contacts.
So
and everyone's, they're like, oh, well, you want to work off your warm market. I was like, yeah, that's fine, but once you're done with that, what do you do?
Yeah.
It's like, eventually, that's not going to last forever, right? Oh, well, I work on referrals. Like, well, that doesn't last forever. Eventually, you need to get some cold contacts.
So what is like the first step for someone getting on a cold call?
The know, like, and trust. They have to know you.
But they're cold. How do you get them to know you?
Introduce yourself.
Okay.
Introduce yourself, and there's several different ways to do it. You can do it publicly in a speaking engagement. You can do it via email. You can do it via social media. You can do it via a specific phone call. You can literally call someone and introduce yourself. But the success rate on that is very low, right? I generally have people do a lot of that in the beginning, the first few weeks. I was like, you know what? I want you to just call 10 people cold that you think might be in your market. Just see how it goes. And because I want them to understand that process, but I move them very quickly to being on stages. Stages are the absolute best way to turn cold contacts into warm ones. Because number one, they've qualified themselves by appearing at the event.
Okay, gotcha.
Right? So they've qualified themselves. So you've already gone past, you've already eliminated a huge chunk of people that were going to waste your time. So they had some interest in whatever the event was about. Generally, if you're speaking to an organization or your own event, you can craft that message so that you're really focusing on the right people at the event. But stages of any sort, I tell people, look, start off. In fact, I was talking to Latika at your event, and I told her, she said, well, since you're a professional speaker, what's the first thing I could do? I said, You need to start talking at every place you can. Lions Club, Rotary, Chamber, it doesn't matter. Just get up on stage and start talking, and at the end to say, if you'd like more information, here's how to reach me.
Gotcha.
Because that helps you craft your message, right? And you get to generate the energy that you need. So I encourage people to use stages because
But what if I'm like, I'm a new sales rep starting in a company, I'm not gonna get on stage.
Okay. Yes, you can. A new sales rep starting in a company, you can go speak to the Lions Club today.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
so you're just like, hey, take every opportunity right now.
Every opportunity you can.
But in your example of high ticket, right?
Okay.
Are the high ticket people going to be at the Lions Club? The owners of a high ticket organization?
Well, you don't know, right? And so that's why I focus on the process first, and then the prospects, and then the messaging. So that sales rep that you're talking about, so someone comes in as a new sales rep, right? Well, who are their prospects? Generally, the boss would tell them. I don't normally work with individual salespeople. I do sales teams, but I don't generally work with an individual salesperson.
So who's your clients?
My client's generally the owner, generally the business owner, the C-suite.
Okay, gotcha.
Because those are the ones that the process really makes the biggest difference. But let's say a sales rep was to come to me, and I had this happen a couple of years ago. I had a sales rep of a big company located out of Salt Lake City that said, I didn't realize they're expecting me to sell a lot more than I thought. Can you help me? I was like, yeah, sure. Let's see what you got. And so the watchword with him was, this is the house you live in. I said, we have to deal with what you've been given, right? We can't change the process dramatically because it's not your process, right? So we can only do so much that the bosses are going to let you do, right? We have to work within this framework that they have built. Normally, I would build that for them, and it would be efficient, and it would work really well. I said, but since they're not going to let me do that, let's focus on who the prospects are. Okay, so now they've also told you who the prospects are. It's like, okay, so now let's focus on the messaging because we can't really do much on the process. This is the house you live in. It sucks. Totally inefficient. Absolutely. We actually, in just about 8 months, were able to close a $5.2 million deal for him from a single client. Their process didn't get a deposit on that deal for almost 7 months.
The original process.
Their process, which we couldn't have anything to do with. My guy closed the deal. Absolutely, let's do it. Happy to do it, right? And then because their process was so laborious, they actually that deal ended up going, being about half as big as it could have been.
Gotcha.
Because they missed out on a lot of opportunities. These guys wanted to hit it hard. And because my client, the sales rep, he focused on the messaging, on what results are you looking for and how can we fit into your culture and and provide you these services. And they loved it, right? Because the messaging was tight. And it was the right prospect because we did some prospecting within the field that his bosses wanted to be in. But then I'm like, man, I'm so excited for you. $5 million, you get a deposit on that. You're getting your 3%. That's a kick-ass year, right? You only need to get a couple of those a year and you're good. And so we were all excited about it. He ended up leaving that company.
Gotcha.
Because they took so long to move it to the next
even
stage.
a company is losing top tier people because their sales process is not even efficient.
100%. Yeah. Because you look at the sales team, what do they want?
Sales, they want income.
They want to make the money, right?
Yeah.
And they'll do whatever. It is so easy to get a sales team to buy into working this process because it can happen so quickly where you're closing deals in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
From nothing. I thought, oh my God, this is happening so much faster. Yeah, because here's the thing. When you meet them, they are a suspect.
The customer or the salesperson?
The prospect, right? Or the customer out there, right? So when you meet them cold, you introduce yourself to them, they are a suspect. Maybe they're qualified, maybe they're not. Maybe they're interested in what you got, maybe they're not. You don't know, right? So they're a suspect. So there's some things you need to do to turn that suspect into a prospect. You need to do some pre-qualification. You need to find out.
Let me write this down. I don't even have a pen. So it starts with a
I can send you over.
It starts with a suspect. I remember when I used to sell copiers, and their sales process came from the 80s.
Yep.
And all around the board it was like a suspect, prospect,
lead.
A suspect, lead. No, I forgot but I remember suspect, prospect, Lead. What's after that?
There's several different ways to look at it. I go with the pitch, and then negotiation, and then the sale.
So that's a sales process. That's a step of the sales process.
And it's not complicated, and it's not really new, right? Because you have a group of people, and some of those people are interested in what you have. So the suspects, you have an idea. The ones that are interested, it's one of the reasons I like doing events, because they've already expressed some interest in whatever you're selling, because they wouldn't have come to the event if they hadn't. So they've already moved themselves to the prospect phase. But in the suspect phase, you need to hold up your hand and say, I'm selling copiers. Anyone interested in a copier?
Yeah.
Right? You got to. I'm selling copiers. Because if they don't know what you do, you can't graduate them from a suspect into a prospect. So someone says, "Oh, I might need a copier." Okay, so now that's a prospect.
Gotcha.
Now you go through the process of saying, what copy are you using now? What are the problems you're having with your copier? So now you're defining that prospect and moving them into a lead, which is a qualified prospect.
Okay.
Someone that can actually buy what you want. Do they have money, right? And so that process is interesting, because now when they move into that lead phase, now the work really starts, because now you lose a lot of them there. And one of the things I always do with my clients is, where are you losing them? We need to figure out where you're losing them.
So the suspect is someone who said, "Hey, I have some sort of interest."
Nope, that's a prospect.
So that's the prospect.
A suspect. So as a copier salesman, using that example, you have this list of people that you think would want to buy a copier.
So if my company, like when I sold copiers, if they gave me a list of 100,000 businesses, is that now 100,000 suspects?
Those are suspects, right? Because they've qualified them somehow, right? I would go one step further and
I'm talking about cold. It's just It's just there. It's just data mined.
I would go one step further and make sure that they fit some qualification of people that would buy a copier.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
Is this company over 10 employees? Because if they're not over 10 employees, they're not buying a copier.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, and probably 25 is a better number.
Gotcha.
Right? So, but that's still a suspect list, right? So we have companies over 25 employees. They need to buy a copier.
Yeah.
Right? They need to have a copy. They can't go down to Kinko's. Five employees, you can go down to Kinko's. But 25 employees, you kind of need a copier in the office, right? Because you're copying a lot of shit.
So it's like a targeted list. So a suspect is like a potential. We suspect that they could
suspect. They might be a client, but their brother might work at Canon.
And that's why they don't do the deal.
Yeah, so they don't do that. So they're not interested in purchasing the product.
So if we determine that they are not fit, what are they? Is it a dead lead? Is it a dead suspect?
So my suspect lists, I always keep them, but I do not encourage my clients to. I keep them because I'm involved in a lot of different industries, and there might be value to me in the future. But for the copier salesman, if this company is not a prospect, get them off the list and be done with them. Never go back to them, because if they're not on, odds are really, really good that if they had no interest, then it's going to be a long time before they have interest. Don't even waste your time. Wasting a lot of time on suspects is just that, wasted time.
Yeah.
Focusing on prospects and leads is where you really want to spend your time. So the ones that are interested and possibly going to buy from you, and the ones that are qualified to buy from you, because you're going to lose a lot of those. Now, I keep every single one of those, and I tell everyone, look, if they have expressed any interest at all in purchasing from you, you need to keep that. That's where the nurture comes in, and time goes by. You don't know what's going to happen to them a year from now or 2 years from now, and so you can always drip stuff out to them and get back in touch. But the suspect list, it's just too big a list, right? Keeping all of them is just not a good use of time. But once it gets to a prospect, keep all of those. And then if it turns into a lead, not only keep all of those, but you got to be having regular contact with them all the time. Then you move into the pitch phase, right? And I tell everyone, it's like, look, this happens. Suspect becomes a prospect becomes a lead becomes goes into the pitch phase. The pitch phase moves to the negotiation phase, and then there is a sale. Mm-hmm. And they go, well, what about the sales that don't close? I said, then that means they sold you instead of you selling them. So there is a sale.
So you got to keep. So there is a sale. You got to keep on nurturing.
There is a sale. At the end of the day, there is a sale. You either got money from them or they just took your time.
Gotcha.
Right. So they took your time. So they convinced you. They sold you that they were not a good prospect, or that they weren't going to buy from.
So what's the name of your company?
It's called Next Step. Is my event and training company. NXSTEP.
NXSTEP.
Yes.
Gotcha. So for Next Step, what are the goals? What are you looking to create with Next Step?
So we're actually on the path to create $1 million club.
What's that?
So it's companies that have reached $1 million in revenue and have decided that they want to help others. So we're putting together $1 million club, and we're actually going to be doing it all over the country. So
Gotcha.
it's going to be kind of fun.
Oh, that's super
because
cool.
the point is, once you get to this $1 million in revenue level, you have enough money to make a difference. And so now it's time to find somebody else, right? Let's bring somebody else up. Let's make them more successful. And I tell every single one of those clients, I'm not suggesting you give anybody money. I'm saying you teach them how you did it, right? Bring someone in, invite them into your company as an intern if you have to, but the goal is to find other entrepreneurs that want to be there. And it's all about growing the community of people that can make a difference.
We're a marketing company, so how important is online marketing for you for Next Step?
Online marketing or marketing in general?
Online marketing.
So online marketing for what I do is secondary. It's not primary. In fact, a lot of people have asked me, how do I find you? I said, well, you don't. I find you. If you're a good client for me, I'm going to. If you're in that prospect bucket, oh yeah, I find you.
Gotcha.
So people find me, and I have some website presence and some online marketing stuff, but generally I do not do a lot of passive marketing. So online marketing, social media marketing, website stuff, we really are more of a focused marketing company. That's going to change as we move forward this next year because of the $1 Million Club and our event series, which is called Amplify.
Where you're looking to do online marketing?
Sort of.
What's going to change?
So, what do you mean?
You said that's going to change. So you said that you don't do necessarily online marketing right now, but that's going to change. I'm a question. What's going to change?
So as we move forward and as we form the $1 Million Club and we have all these people with varying skill sets, there's going to be a greater need for online marketing to get those skills out to the general public. Whereas I have a very focused group of people that I work with, online marketing is not super important. But as we start to grow the $1 Million Club and bring in people of all different business sizes, not just the ones at the higher level, we're going to want to make sure that that's a message that gets out there via online marketing.
Gotcha. So how do people get in contact with you or to join the $1 Million Club?
So the easiest way to get in contact with me is on LinkedIn. I'm there every day, all day. It's like my third arm. On LinkedIn, you can find me either under Next Step Training, at Next Step Training, or at Jim Root Speaks.
JimRootSpeaks.com?
On LinkedIn,
on
Jim
LinkedIn.
Root Speaks. Yeah, JimRootSpeaks.com as well, but yeah, at Jim Root Speaks on LinkedIn.
Gotcha. And you're a speaker and you speak on the sales process.
Correct.
So if you're in a place right now where you're looking for a speaker, you're looking to do business with someone like Jim Root, give him a call. Man,
Absolutely.
I appreciate you being on the show, my man.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Tune in every week to discover new stories, new businesses, and new ideas.